Hello and welcome to the Nintendo Switch Online Game Club, the show where we play through the games available on Nintendo's various NSO apps completely at random. I'm your host, Derrick, and in this episode, I'm joined by MasaeAnela, the wonderfully multi-talented YouTuber, streamer, speedrunner, and artist. How you doing, Masae?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Of course. And Rebecca Stone, streamer, podcaster, and writer at Twinfinite, and probably the biggest Taylor Swift fan I know. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm super excited.
And as you're both likely aware, there are now over 200 games across the NSO, and while some are widely known like Super Mario Bros. And Zelda, there are some odd picks that could be hidden gems. We honestly don't know. So what we'll be doing is entering all those games into a randomizer, pick one, and then give our initial thoughts. And this week, the Wheel of Games has chosen Sword of Vermilion, another Sega Genesis games. I swear this is the Nintendo Online Game Club. 6 episodes and half of them have been for the Sega Genesis.
That's an interesting track record.
It really is.
Track record.
It really is. But I guess right off the bat, what is our history with Sword of Vermilion, or even history with Genesis? Because I know a lot of us are more Nintendo kids than Genesis kids. But let's start with you, Rebecca. What's your familiarity with Genesis and Sword of Vermilion?
I have played very few Genesis games. I think I maybe heard of Sword of Vermilion just from when it was added to Switch Online. Definitely don't know anything about it. Definitely is going in knowing nothing.
Oh boy. What about you, Masae?
Yeah, I was not a Genesis child. I definitely leaned more Nintendo. I have played maybe like one thing on the Genesis, and I never owned one. So
Oh, wow.
Genesis is totally like not on my radar for a lot of things. As for Sword of Vermilion itself, I've definitely heard about it. Like it's something that I kind of like vaguely know about, but I've never played it. Clearly. The only thing that I've heard about it was that it was hard. Like, I know it's hard, and I feel like that kind of translated into hard game bad in somewhere in my brain. So I looked at it, I was like, wait, isn't this game bad?
I don't know. I've heard of it, but I also not really, I don't know much about it because I did grow up with the Genesis, but I was like 8 or 9. Like, I was still pretty young at the time. So I hadn't developed like the ability to like look at magazines and being like, what's good? It was just sort of I had at the mercy of taste of my mom for picking out games just on random, or me thinking, hey, that game looks cool on the shelf. Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, I can definitely tell you, as a 8-year-old looking at the box art of Sword of Vermilion, I don't think I would have been like, yeah, I want that. That's just not something that comes up.
Has that era of looks nothing like the game, try to make it look as fantasy adventure as possible, but somehow kind of ends up looking a little bit odd in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Definitely feel that. But I gotta say, looking at the wiki page, because I want to know at least something about it, we might be in for a bit of a treat because there's some pedigree behind this. This is developed by Sega AM2, one of the big arcade division developers for Sega, and this was actually their first console exclusive game that they ever developed. And its producer was Yu Suzuki of Virtua Fighter and Shenmue fame. So there's a bit of pedigree here. It's an action RPG. I'm being told by Eggroll in our live audience that it plays a little bit like Ys, and I'm guessing probably the original Ys. Are either of you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with it, but my extent of being familiar is pointing at it and being like, I should play that someday. And, having it sit in my library for a hot minute because I never had time. But I know of it, and it looked like something I would really like. So if it plays like that, then I'll probably, like, even if it's hard, I'll like it. So,
yeah.
I mean, action RPG, that sounds fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder how similar it is to Ys because, as far as gameplay, because that game, it was an action RPG, but you didn't have an attack button. You just sort of bashed your head into the enemies and you did damage to each other until they fall. And that was sort of it. I don't think it's going to be exactly like that. Again, looking at the wiki, we have 4 different views. A town view for when it's sort of overhead, like in most RPGs. A battle view that's a tilted overhead view where you take full control of the character in real-time combat and you can use weapons and magic. A dungeon view, which is in first person, so get out your maps. And a boss view that puts a player up against a boss from a sideways viewpoint. So it's still like we're going all over the place.
This will be interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds like it touches on a lot of different genres. Like it's a bunch of different things packed into one game, which is interesting.
Makes you wonder, was this like too big for time? You know, it feels like it's a very ambitious concept.
I mean, right on this box art, they have 5 megabit memory with backup battery and 106 page hint book included. Like they included a guide with this thing, so feel free to look up the guide.
If you need 106 pages for hints, that's not a great sign that I'm going to know what I'm doing.
Oh,
yeah, no. we might want to look up the actual manual this time around, or consult a guide if we need to. We'll see what that actually ends up being. I don't know, but I'm intrigued. I will say, much like Shining Force, I don't expect any of us to beat this. Like, I don't think we can squeeze in. Like, I looked it up and it's about 16 hours. Maybe we can beat that in a week, but it feels like with other obligations.
It's hard. I don't know. I'm going to try to get as far as I can.
Yeah, me too. I'm interested to see like how far we all get into this game, and then just like compare notes and like be like, how far did you get?
What did you think of this story? Because the wiki here has a lot of good reviews in an old magazine in 1992 called Mega. I believe that's a European magazine. Placed it as number 11 on their top Mega Drive games of all time. So
that's neat.
Okay. Yeah.
That's neat. I think for this, it's going to be neat to just play through it and also look at it from the lens of like, okay, what was also in that era? How has this aged over time? Like, obviously, it's not going to be good by today's standards, but looking at it and being like, okay, for the time, how impressive was this back when it was first released? What is the year on that? Derrick?
It was released in Japan in 1989 and the US in 1990.
Very end of 89, it looks like, in Japan.
So it's older than me. Got it. Nice.
I was 5 when it came out in the States, so yeah, I definitely did not know about this game. Man, it's definitely going to be one of those where we're going to have to look at it from the time, I feel like. I think it might not hold up too well from a modern lens, but Sega likes to re-release it. It's appeared on the Wii Virtual Console, the Genesis Collection, on PS2 and portable and PSP. So it's not an uncommon re-release for sure. So yeah,
that's neat.
Yeah, I'm curious about this one. Yeah, it's another one of those. It's like, man, we were just getting the odd ducks for this show. I swear to God.
To be fair, I feel like there's more odd ducks than there are like smash hits where everyone knows what that game is. I feel like when you compare the amount of things where it's just like everyone knows what Super Mario 64 is, everyone knows what Ocarina of Time is. There's gonna be a whole lot more games where it's just like things that people threw at the wall and hope it stuck, you know? And
it was a very experimental time, for sure.
Yeah. And like there's 200 something games on the NSO, you said, Derrick, right now?
Yeah, I think taking out including the ones we're going to take down, I think it's about 220-ish. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole lot of jank in there somewhere. Like I feel like that's more common than not.
Yeah, I think that's the fun of doing this show. It's why I wanted to do it, because there's always those games that releases the 3 and you're like, sweet, we got Donkey Kong Country. What the heck is this other game that they included? Is like, and we'll never play it. it's like,
I know a lot of people miss Virtual Console, but I do like, the model of Switch Online where I would never buy Sword of Vermilion on its own.
No.
Yeah.
But the fact that I can just kind of jump in and try it and see what it's all about, I think is a really cool perk.
Yeah.
I agree
Absolutely.
with that.
Well, I guess unless there's anything else you both want to say, you ready to play Sword of Vermilion for a week?
Heck
Make
yeah.
me suffer. Make me suffer. Make me suffer.
Cry first.
All right, now we have to take note. At what time, at which day did you start crying? That's the next thing.
Yeah. I want detailed notes. when did you break, Masae? When did you break?
When did you break? How many tears? We have to keep notes. Keep a record.
Will do. Let's see.
I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, we will see you both. See everyone in a week. Let's go play some Sword of Vermilion.
All right.
また一つテレビゲームの神話が生まれる。メガドライブだけに許された超大型ロールプレイングゲームバーメリオン。
And we're back after a week of playing Sword of Vermilion, the first console exclusive game from Sega AM2, all the way from 1989. But what did we actually think of this classic RPG? Because I have thoughts. Let's start with you, Rebecca. What are your thoughts on Sword of Vermilion?
I have to admit, I was pretty intimidated going into this after just what we were glancing at and looking at when we spun the wheel and got the game. Seeing the screenshots and whatnot, I was a little bit scared. But I dove in, and my first, I guess, very, very, very first impression is typing in the character name, very old school. There's never, ever enough characters for my name in these, classic games from, pre-2000. Only 6 characters allowed, so my knight's name was Rebecca.
I always,
That sounds like a knight's name.
yeah, that
I
works.
kept with it.
I always lose my K. I'm never allowed to have my K. Although I went with Derrick this time, so because Amy pointed out to me a long time ago that my name is just a remix of Derrick from Dragon Quest. So cool. We'll just go with that.
I like it. But yeah, my second impression after being Rebecca is that the music in this game is pretty banging. It was really catchy. Every single screen that I went on, really good music. And then I'm sure we'll get into it, but just each of the different perspectives that you play in the gameplay, like the top down, the first person, I actually kind of vibed with it. I thought it was pretty cool. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but yeah. I had a positive experience about that.
I'm glad to hear that. What about you, Masae? Was your experience as positive as Rebecca's?
I won't say everything was positive, but
So, I mean, yes, I really enjoyed it. The first thing that hit me, similar to Rebecca, is that the music slapped. The music was great. I was very, very surprised. I was expecting beeps and boops, and I was like, oh my god, wait a second.
Yeah.
The walking speed is a little bit jarring, going from the overworld map to town map, because you kind of crawl along. And so, and the text speed is also very slow. I did find that there is a speed adjust.
Yes.
But later, and I was like,
oh no,
God dang it.
It took me a while to find it too. I just happened to hit I hit pause and I just hit start. Because usually
That's
I hit the
exactly
home
how
screen.
I knew immediately. I was like, I need to figure out how to change this as soon as possible because the slow text speed annoyed me too.
Yeah, I was kind of impressed that a game that old had text speed options. I wasn't expecting it out of it, so I wasn't going out of my way to find it. So when I accidentally found it by just I have to go and grab a snack. Pause. Wait a second. And so I was I was pretty happy about that. I mean, the fast speed is also still pretty slow. It's pretty slow still.
Not the
but
best.
It's
It's
better.
about what normal would be, but it's after putting up with normal speed for a while, it does feel fast.
It's better. I think out of the initial impact of the game, one of my biggest takeaways is that the difficulty spike is pretty intense early on. And so my entire first portion of playing the game was grinding.
Mm-hmm.
I just grinded. Yeah. I grinded for all of that initial stuff. And I was like, it's kind of relaxing, but also kind of I want to go forward more, but also
A little repetitive in the beginning, I thought, as well, with the grinding, because, so, you're right, like, the very first thing that you have to do, really, is just go out and fight a bunch so that you can afford anything that you really need to get to the first little cave area. I hated the fact that if you die, you lose half of your money, which that could be a lot.
That
I
that's old school for you.
rewind.
Yeah,
Well,
rewind.
that's what I ended up doing, because like I didn't
Same.
We only
know
have a
if,
week
there
to
would
play this, so
eventually
let's try to
be a
get through it.
way. Yeah, I didn't know if there would be a way to like store money, so I panicked.
Yeah, no, unlike
I
Dragon
never found one.
Actually, I don't know if Dragon Quest, when Dragon Quest introduced that, having a bank. But yeah, this is old school Dragon Quest rules where you die, you lose half your money. You don't lose any progress, any experience you gained is still there, which is sort of the, hey, we're being nice to you aspect of this. The game's definitely inspired by Dragon Quest as far as its mechanics, as far as an RPG. The whole rotation of grind against enemies, get the money to buy the best equipment, make your way to the next town, solve their problem, rinse, repeat, and getting that all figured, taking care of all that. It's fine, but on one hand, I enjoy this game and like what it does and really vibe with it. It's kind of like Masae did. You just sort of like, just go with it and have some fun.
Yeah.
On the other end, I can't turn my brain off like I can with Dragon Quest, because I vibe with the original Dragon Quest really hard. Like I am just right. It's perfect to turn a podcast on to. Don't have to really think or even pay attention to the screen that much. You get to a fight, choose your options, you grind a bit, you get the money, you move on. But with Sword of Vermilion, you have to pay attention because of the different screens. You have, you can go back and forth and all that, but when you get into the enemy screen, you're only jamming the A button in order to just do your piddly attacks, but you have to move around and dodge because they can bum rush you hard. Like it is very easy to go
when there's like 8 of them on the screen at once, and like you're kind of trapped.
Yeah, you're surrounded.
I think one of the worst things actually is exactly that, is that you always start in the middle of the screen and everything spawns around you, and there's no iframes, 0 of them. You get hit. And B, there's like no amount of time in which you get to like look at the battlefield and be like, I'm gonna walk this way. You just get thrown in and you hold a direction and hope you're picking the right direction that won't get you slaughtered. So I think like a lot of the difficulty is kind of from that, just not being able to plan ahead or, know where you're going right off. Because some of the enemies hit hard. I was upgrading every single thing that I possibly could as soon as I could, and they were still dealing like 40 damage per hit. And I was
the
like,
werewolves in the
geez.
beginning, where like there like 8 of them appear on the screen. It took me a little while to figure out that you can actually run from the battles if like you can get out of that little middle. You can run off the screen, and so if I was like running low on health, I would just like peace out and like go heal.
Yeah,
took me a little while to realize that.
Definitely a good thing to do, though. Man, some of the later enemies, like you feel like you get like, you feel really strong when you get all that equipment on. You have your best set, and you fight the enemies, and you take them out in one hit, and they do maybe 1 damage, and you're like, aha! And then you find that one enemy that's just like, no, we're here for some pain, and it's just like 40 damage gone, 40 damage gone, as Miss is saying, and it's certainly rough, and you never know how many are going to spawn. You're either going to get the full 8, or you might get 1 or 2 or 3, and it's not so bad, and you can get away. It's so up in the air what you're going to get. But the thing that I think annoyed me the most, and took me the longest to figure out and get the handle on, hit detection is a bitch.
Yeah,
like figuring out
really
what your sword
right
is
on top of it.
Yeah, you have that little marker that tells you hit something with your sword, but it's so minute that it's like hard to tell if you're actually hitting anything or whatnot. And it's good luck in getting any indication other than your health going down that you're getting hit.
Yeah, there's none. It's wild.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that also struck me that I was really annoyed with, specifically, this is like a monster in particular, is the stupid scorpions.
I ran every time. I just did my best to avoid.
Okay, yes, but I started getting to the point where I was piecing out. I was like, there's no way. I'm going to get poisoned. I get hit once and you get poisoned. And I was like, all right, I'm going to piece out every single time. Yeah. They can spawn so many of them that it is impossible to get out without being poisoned practically. If you don't like try to
I had to go back and heal from that so many times.
Yeah. I started carrying a bunch of like poison bombs everywhere. I was like, I need at least like 3 or 4, or else I'm gonna
get poisoned to death.
I'm gonna tilt.
Hey, you wanted tilted. You asked for tilted before we got in here.
I did.
And the scorpions provided
it.
I remember getting because I'm used to. I'm trying to conserve my magic so I can use my magic to heal. That's what I always tend to use my magic for this sort of thing. The beating's doing well. I learned very quickly there are certain monsters you have to use magic for, and I didn't get far enough that I got a lot of new magic. I got best I got was the fire spell, the healing spell, and then an electric spell. And I know there's more than that in the game, but that's just as far as I was able to get. And they can be powerful. It could definitely be one where I like take multiple hits with a sword, and I just send out one of those. Takes them out in one go, and that was like, okay, there's my escape. Make an open with magic and run, and just try to conserve as much as possible. So battles are certainly something, but I guess there is one other aspect of battles we haven't quite touched on, and that's our boss fights. What did we feel about the boss fights? I only got 2 in my time, but oh my god.
Okay, I was surprised. I was surprised at it because I was fully expecting it to be like turn-based. I thought it was going to swap into another genre because of the screenshots that we saw. It was like side-scrolling, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be like turn-based RPG shenanigans. And I was like, oh, wait a second.
Nope.
Oh.
You are as slow as ever.
I liked it, I think. And it still counts as another, like, I think, maybe not genre, but that's our only, I think, kind of side-scrolling 2D-ish part where you're, kind of on that plane. But I only did the first boss, the dragon. I loved the design of it. I thought it was very cool.
It was very
cool.
It took me a little while to figure out, like, the strategy of, like, when I should and shouldn't be hitting it. It was, like, kind of you had to pace yourself and, like, wait for it to, like, not have its mouth open and lower down far enough. Like, I definitely used rewind. I'm just saying. But yeah, it felt very satisfying.
How'd you feel, Masae, about our boss fights?
Yeah, when I got into it and I realized that it wasn't, hey, pick your attack. It was weird for me. I think I enjoyed it, but I feel like this is gonna sound really weird, but I felt like it ended very fast.
Yes,
I feel like the bosses ended really, really quick. Like they hit hard, but also I just walked up, mashed A few times, and I was like, uh-oh, it's doing something else. Oh, it's dead. Oh, the thing that it's
I thought
doing,
there was
going to
be like a phase 2, and then there wasn't a phase 2.
Yeah. And I think it was especially so for you fought the ogre, right, Derrick?
Yes, I did fight the second boss.
Okay, yeah. The ogre died in basically 3 seconds.
You must have been really powerful. It took me a little bit longer because I felt I had to use a little bit more strategy against the ogre because I was able with the first, I think it was the dragon. You got in and do your weird upward sword strikes a few times and you powered through it. And I tried to do that with the ogre. That did not work. So
I might have just lucked out because I was scared at first. And then I like got right up on him, and then I just went, and then he was dead. And I was like, oh, okay.
Nice. Yeah,
I feel like my battling is too cautious. Like, at least for the dragon, I like really backed up a lot, and I didn't want to get too up close and personal.
Yeah.
You played the way that the game was probably supposed to be played. I played with the knowledge that if I die, I can rewind.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I try to play as close to the original as possible, but you use it a little bit. But I did like the fact that if you want to play cautious, it works, and you are rewarded for playing cautious because you don't have the rewind. Because I figured out the ogre has that lightning attack, so I'm like, okay, get in, get a few hits. Okay, I got to get back so I don't get hit by the ogre. But you're so slow. It's like, oh god, am I out of the way in time? That's
Yeah.
the slowness of everything. Exploring the towns, getting just all of that was maybe the worst
The other
part.
thing I felt like, as in terms of the navigation, like maybe I'm just stupid, but like actually there's a few things that I want to touch on that I felt really stupid about.
Oh no.
Just like once you get out of the town into kind of the overworld, it took me a little while to like orient myself of like what direction, like, because there were so many times that I got into the town and then like I thought I was hitting go forward, but then I backed right back up into the town.
Oh, I
because
did
you
that
have to watch
all the time.
what
It's
direction
weird how
he's
they orient
facing
you.
on the map. Yeah. So that took me a little bit while.
It's strange. I appreciated the different views that they gave you. I thought it was really cool and really neat, but I felt like eventually I really wasn't using the like first person thing anymore, except to like, see, is there a chest there or is there a monster there? I just like looked over when something popped up, but otherwise I was using them more often than not.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
You need that map. I mean,
kind of have to.
Those times when you don't have a map and you're stumbling through, it's so easy to get lost. And
That's
you
my
have to-
least favorite part.
yeah, you have
Honestly.
to talk to every villager like basically twice, because sometimes they'll give it to you beforehand. Other times you don't get a map until after you complete the quest there, and they're like, "Oh, here's a map
Yeah.
for the next section that you can go through, and so you can explore." You don't get that, good luck. Like you don't need pen and paper for this, and if you otherwise, like I explored the caves, never had to use a map. I never looked up a map for any of the caves, so I can be proud of that.
Okay,
part.
I need to tell the two other things I was stupid for,
Okay,
just
go
to
for
like
it.
get it off my
Yeah,
chest
no,
here.
go
So,
for
you get to the cave, you realize, oh, it's dark. I need to go get a candle, right? So I go and I get a single candle.
Oh no!
No.
Oh.
Because I thought, and I should have realized because it was so cheap that it was like a consumable. It wasn't like just an item to have. But yeah, I got stuck in the dark cave and had to like guess my way out because
That's
the candle burned out. So I had to go back and buy like 16 different candles. And then the thing that I was even more stupid about was how long it took me to realize that you don't just open a chest and get the item.
no.
Yes.
See,
Same.
I
was wondering if that was going to be it because I did the exact same thing.
Okay, because I felt stupid because the first chest I opened had money in it. And like I thought, oh, like I didn't notice my total money go up. Like maybe I just, didn't remember how much money I had. Maybe I
did
was
literally the
misremembering.
exact same thing.
And then I
no.
found the cave map, and I'm like, wait, where's the map? Do I have to like activate? Like, what do I do? The map didn't show up, and I'm like wandering around, and then I realized you have to not just open the chest, you have to take what's
it.
in.
Yeah.
And like
I did the
feel
exact
so
same
dumb.
thing.
I wouldn't
why?
feel dumb.
What
I
is the
fortunately,
reason for that?
it's old school stuff because it's one of those things like. Have you ever played the original Dragon Quest, Rebecca?
No, I've never played a game where I had to open the chest and take the item.
Yeah, it's not quite that way for Dragon Quest. It has a different thing where if you get to a stairway, you don't just naturally go down the stairway. You have to go and bring up a menu and choose stairs. Then you'll go down. It's the old school mentality where we're not programming in you automatically doing these things. We have commands that you do because they're pulling it from old PC games where you had all those commands. And thanks to me being used to that, and I'd seen the take option, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what they want me to do. It still sucks because it's a 2-step process to get anything. But I didn't fall for the trap, and I feel bad that you guys did too. Part of me is always like, when I play these, when I do these game club games and I discover something, it's like, should I tell the others or just let them have their own? Like, do we treat this old school where like we're kids on the playground? It's like, oh, I just found this out. I should tell you this so you can do this. This is cool. Or do I let you just sort of bumble your way through? And every time so far, I've chosen bumble.
Character
Yes.
to feel stupid and then figure it out.
And then like now Rebecca and I can bond and we're just like, me too. We're in the same boat.
Yep.
I remember I did a lot of like oh, you got a weapon in a chest. Well, I just bought all the weapons in town, so let me take a look at this. And almost every time it's like, it's a worse weapon. You'd have to like check your stats in order to actually tell any difference. Because again, old school, you're not telling. If the weapon's more expensive, that's how you know it's better. That's your only indication.
That is true. That is true.
They gave you a pretty, I thought, a generous amount of money to start at least. What was it, like 200?
200, I think, yeah.
Whatever the currency
Kim's?
was.
For whatever reason,
Kim's.
it's Kim's. Okay.
I don't know. But I was able to I bought the sword and what I guess was the best shield. It was the most expensive shield. I thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah, they were pretty generous. And then I said, that's not enough. And I immediately went out and just killed everything in a 10-mile radius.
You needed those levels at first. I
did
think I was
it was
level
generous.
4 or 5.
Until I realized that, when I was out there and grinding, this was my adopted father who said, oh, here is, my life savings for you. And then, I made back his life savings in 5 minutes.
And he was supposed to be a great warrior. It's like, you were slacking, dude.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
I guess that you mentioned that, we can talk about a little bit about the plot because, it is. I mean, it's 1989. It's your basic plot. There's a little bit more to it because you're the son of the king, and your father was betrayed and killed by this other kingdom. I forget what is it here.
The
Cartagena
kingdom.
Cartagena, and they invaded your kingdom of Excalibria. And these are wonderful names here. So basically, the king summons his most faithful warrior, gives you, his son, and an heirloom known as the Ring of Wisdom, and takes care of the child. And when you turn 18, Blade dies of old age. That's your warrior, which is a hell of a name. And he's like, hey, you're the son. You need to take out Cartagena and save the world. Basically, it's only you can do this. So it's your typical plot. And then the rest of the story is just literally go to this town, get this ring. Go to this town, get this ring. It's all about. It should be the Ring of Vermilion at this point. Yeah, there's very little difference. Like you got the town that's looks like it's a bunch of old people. Now they're actually young. Actually, that reminds me. Did you get to the village of old people, Rebecca?
I did.
I didn't know, but I did read about it.
Okay. Did you finish the village of old people, Masae?
Yes.
Did you stay at the inn at the village of old people?
I did. I was pissed. I was so mad, dude. That was such garbage.
So when you go to the village of old people, you have the inn, and if you stay at the inn, it's like, I don't remember what the price is. You can stay for free. And it's like, oh, cool. I get a free healing.
Thanks.
After you save them, if you go back to the inn and stay, they're like, I remember how many times you stayed here. I'm going to charge you. I got charged $1,200 for how much I stayed there because I'm like, well, grind here a bit and just take advantage of it. And got charged
$1,200. That's wild.
It is so much more expensive than any other town. I was balking, oh my God.
I was so pissed. I was so mad.
So I
feel like for a lot of things for this game specifically, and I feel like a dirty cheater saying this, but I feel like it's most enjoyable if you have rewind. I did have fun with it, and I did enjoy it a lot. I don't think I would have had fun if I didn't rewind.
And I think that's the key here, because this is an NSO game club. It's not the original game club. We can appreciate it from the original point, but we do have the advantage of those rewind features that help you get into these older games. And yeah, I a lot of times where I'm close to death, and I'm I don't want to lose all my money. I want to try to get to town. That's when I rewind, or okay, I can't get past these guys. Fine, I'll use a healing item because I'm stingy like that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't
feel
think
that's the case for a lot of games from that era, because whether it was due to just the hardware limitations at the time, or maybe just by the game design that they wanted you to have a much harder time because they wanted to lengthen the game, and they could only do that with difficulty. You were kind of expected to just grind and spend hours and hours on one part, and it's just not really a thing anymore.
That is true.
I never
I feel like
found...
for difficulty in that way, like my brain is just like I enjoy that in platforming, and I enjoy that in like, trying to make difficult jumps. But if it's something like health and damage and I just get one shot on something, I just get frustrated. I'm just like, I just want to move on. I'm gonna go to the next area. I'm done with this right now.
Because it's not really at a certain point. It's not even a skill thing, like you said with platformers. Like you can get better with
Exactly.
an RPG, or
Yeah.
it's just going back and
Exactly.
leveling more.
And I did feel like
Especially a game like this where like there's very little strategy involved. Like
yeah.
I
it's
feel
not
like
an
there
RPG
is
where,
like
There's some. I did
muscle
figure out
memory
some
and
strategy of
skill.
like
Yeah.
how to best places to hit the wolves or wherever the other enemies. And I will commend this game on that. There is a pretty decent enemy variety. Like they'll
Yeah.
eventually get the same types of enemies, but they always have new attack patterns. Like there was this one blob thing that just did a rotation of blades a little bit, and then I got a little bit further, and then it had like a scorpion tail type thing, and I'm like, what the heck is this?
oh, I didn't see that.
And I went like, all right, I'll attack it and try to figure it out. Actually, no, it goes from like a rotation. Then it has more of a like, oh, I see where you're at, and I'm going to send out a longer thing to hit
and
you.
just
And then
stabs you.
Yeah, then it gets the scorpion tail. I'm like, okay, well, just stay away from that and get it. You get by the scorpion tail, it's like 60 health going. I'm like, oh god, I'm
Yeah,
running. I quickly learned I'm never fighting that thing.
That's the
That's
strategy.
probably the
Learn to
one.
avoid-
But
That's true. That's probably also one that you would want to use magic on.
yeah.
Like that's the sort of encounter that you just want to keep your distance and just range it down if you want to kill it, or you can just run.
Just run. There's plenty of other things out there. But you also said about seeing the next thing, and I think that's a bit of a weakness on this game's part, because having looked at the world map, I can tell you there is no variety. It is trees and it is the stones. There is never anything beyond those. The caves all look the same. The towns all look the same. There's a little bit of variety as far as how the towns are structured, but there's no variety visually there. You get different stories.
I would imagine that was probably a hardware limitation.
Oh, I'm sure, especially early.
Especially with like I feel like, again, going back to the boss designs, like I feel like I played a lot of Genesis games, so I don't really know what the standard was for that console at that time, but they looked really impressive.
For 1989, holy crap, especially because they showed battle damage. You could see them like kind of falling apart a little bit.
I loved that. That was so cool. I was very impressed by like the visual representation that it's taking damage, because like some things today don't even do that. And I'm just like, hey, this game from 89 is showing this thing melting. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. I'll take that. Trying to think of anything else to really get into. We got the overworld kind of annoyed me at a certain point, but I like the fact that for the most part it's not a guide game. You can figure out most things and get there. If you get lost, you're in trouble. Because I did that. I was like, I'll explore beyond rather than go back and forth, I'll explore beyond and get that. I got lost and got killed so quick. I'm like, well, I'll take losing half the money, because I have even rewinding won't help me here. I'm so lost.
You're too far gone.
Yeah.
One thing that I do respect though that they do is that they have the villagers out on the map. And if you start going past a certain area, then they'll warn you.
Yes.
I had that happen a couple of times where it's like I started going beyond, because I was looking for one of the towns, and I was going in the wrong direction, and then a villager popped up, and he's like, "Is this the way to blah, 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 blah?" I was like, oh, I hope not, because I'm going the wrong way. And I turned around, and then I found where I needed to go after that. So it's like,
that is nice.
Even then, even if you're like stupid lost, you still have options, and
There's
you still get
navigation.
guided kind of in the right
There's like
direction.
one guy's like, going behind, the enemies behind me are really strong. Be careful. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it's in weird ways ahead of its time.
It kind of was. It kind of was. I kind of had a moment when I realized what they were doing with that, because there's like the first one that I found that was like that is this dude, and he's just like are you sure you're ready for what's beyond here? I'm like, I don't know.
I guess not.
I hope
I'm
so.
turning around. I'm going home.
Yeah. No, I think the game is very clever in a lot of ways. And we guessed that they had a lot of ideas and a lot of ambition, and I still feel that way.
Yeah.
You know, I would want to know what that team would do today with a game, you know,
Yeah.
with today's technology and ideas and how things have come
Se-
along.
Sega
I was
AM2 is one of the
also-
most prestigious developers under Sega. It is like they have so many games under their belt, lots of arcade
That's
ones,
awesome.
and like even just before this game, they'd already made Outrun, Space Harrier, Afterburner 1 and 2, like. And those were just from 85 to 88. And then after that, you get so much more stuff like Virtua Racing, Virtua Fighter and all of its sequels, Daytona USA, Virtua Cop, like
Wow.
so many great arcade games that they just have this legacy. And I think they're still going to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's interesting. They helped make, of course, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, but also Hatsune Miku Project Diva Megamix Plus.
Wow.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
some disparity.
Oh boy.
Neat.
Yeah. It's a wild range, but these guys are probably one of the more prestigious developers under Sega. It's
That's
great.
cool
awesome.
to see that
That's
they made this
actually
RPG. I don't
fantastic.
think they ever returned to the RPG genre after this, but still cool.
Yeah, the fact that they made something like this in that era is actually really impressive. And even like one thing that I also will bring up that I was also impressed with, obviously text limits and obviously super old game, you know, talking to NPCs wasn't really the thing to do. I did notice that even with that, they were squeezing little bits of humor in here and there where
Yeah.
they could. Because in the old people town, it's like full of old people and you go and break the curse and then everyone's young again. Yay! But there's one old guy still in there and he's like, why are you surprised? I was old before. I got a little chuckle out of
Yeah,
it. I was like, oh, I see you. I was just like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect a game from that era to have like a whole ton of humor, especially one that's like, you know, more rooted in the combat system and in like, you know, this little RPG story and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
the
that
fact-
game I feel like is branded to be like, oh, mature, fighting, fantasy,
Exactly.
like knights in shining armor. Yeah, you wouldn't expect it to
Exactly.
have cute little quirks like that.
Yeah, it had a few of those, but that's the one that stood out to me. And like and I was maybe like a third through the game, fourth through the game ish, somewhere around that ballpark. And the fact that I could find a few like little highlights of, oh, okay, the NPCs are actually worth talking to. Okay, other than, you know, getting maps and useful stuff. But
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed with that.
I was struggling with this one because as I was playing it, because the thing is, after a while of playing this, I enjoyed its legacy. It's impressive for its time, but I also like, this is getting a little tedious. Like you
Yeah.
fall into that trap of like, all right, well, let's grind some more, get the next little story bit, go to the cave, beat the boss. Well, not even every cave has a boss. You find the item in the cave and then move on. It's just like, I get it.
How many times in a row can you do that before getting tired of it?
Yeah. And as Masay said, we're only like, I think we only made it like a quarter to a third of the way through. There's still plenty more.
I was stunned when because I stopped. I was like, oh, how much do I have to go? If it's not that much, then I'll keep going. I looked up like how many more caves there are and how many more towns, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm stopping here. I got the idea of what I'm doing. That's all I need.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I feel like the core is there, and the idea of the game and the structure of it is sound. I just think maybe if it were a little bit, you know, more recent and newer, they probably could have done more with it. Because I think, honestly, I really like the idea of it, and I like the structure, and I like the skeleton that they have put down. I just think it was very limited by what they were able to do and the technology that was available at the time. But I would
agree.
love to see something like this now.
Yeah.
It
I
would
feel
be
like its
really cool.
faults are not its fault, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It is a game of its age, and I think it speaks highly to it that we can still appreciate it for that. Kind of, for me,
sure.
the original Dragon Quest, like it is a perfectly playable game, all grinding, of course, but there's something charming about it, and I think Sword of Vermilion doesn't have quite the same level of charm as the original Dragon Quest, in my opinion, but it's doing so many different things, and the impressive part is none of it feels like you're getting bogged down by like this is too difficult, too hard. You just need to put the time into it. And if you're a kid in 89, older kid obviously, because I can't imagine a 5-year-old playing through this, but like you're 13, 14, I could see this being pretty cool and putting a little bit of time in it each day, getting those save points and just making that progress and just seeing what comes next. I can see this being kind of a fun fantasy game, and why it's so highly regarded as far as like top Genesis games, at least back in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree. I can agree there. And it's just like, obviously we're looking at it through the lens of like, oh, what was once back then, but we have all of this, present knowledge of what video games would become since then. But if you're just like a kid in the late 80s/90s playing it, like what else do you have to base it on? Other things that look exactly like it, It would be pretty impressive. If it's impressing us now, it would probably, I can see it being, really highly regarded back in the day.
Yeah, and it's a different flavor to like your stuff like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, which was already out at the time. So I can see how it would feel more advanced than those two. But unless you guys have anything else, I believe we've said all we wanted to say about Sword of Vermilion. Any other thoughts?
I think... scanning. I'm scanning my brain. Was there anything that pissed me off more than the scorpions? I don't think so.
The scorpions in the chests and the innkeeper.
Yeah. Yep.
We did not tilt you as much as I thought you might get tilted. So that's
It didn't.
impressive.
It didn't. It was very much like I definitely turned my brain off and I just like hit things, and I was like, I can vibe with this. It gave me, okay, you know what? It gave me a similar feeling to like mining in Minecraft, just like doing like the little mine tunnels. It gave me that feeling because I'm just like hitting things and then
kind
just
of the same
watching it
animation too. It's
crumble.
just going like this.
Yeah, I'm just hitting things, watching it crumble, and then just like turning my brain off for a little bit and getting money and getting resources. So it's like, it was very much the same sort of deal in the way of like how my brain interpreted it. And I was like, all right, I vibe with this.
Yeah.
Like you DM'd me, Derrick, asking like, have you played it yet? This was on Tuesday. I was like, no.
I'm like, because I was like, just like sort of fishing, like, what are they thinking about this? Because I'm just having these weird thoughts about like I'm enjoying this, but boy, is it of its time.
And I'm just like, I haven't learned how to not procrastinate since college. I'm still there mentally, dude. I have not grown a bit since college. Here I am. So
I can't take just 5 hours of just playing it solid. I gotta intersperse it, or else I'm in trouble.
I did 5 hours solid yesterday.
Oh my
gosh! I sat down.
That's
played
impressive.
for 5 hours straight yesterday, and I was like, "Great! Now I have it all up here, fresh. I crammed for the test. I'm good to go. Let's go."
And you passed.
There you go.
See, it worked out.
Thank you.
I will say that I feel like this did teach me that I shouldn't be so dismissive every time that you see that tweet Nintendo has added 3 obscure Genesis games too, because I was a Nintendo kid. I was not a Genesis, a Sega kid. And I've never heard of almost all of these games, and when I see that there's not a lot of excitement being drummed up online about these various titles, like, that doesn't mean it's not worth just checking out. Like, would I play through this entire game? Probably not, but like, I'm really genuinely glad that I got to see what it was, and I wouldn't have done that if we didn't spin the wheel. So I feel like I need to like pick at random like one of these games every once in a while and just kind of see what it's like.
Yeah. That is actually a really good point.
I mean, it's there. Might as well.
I mean,
picking random things now.
Kind of why I like doing this show, because I mean, just to date us a little bit, yesterday is when we got the drop of the 3 random imports for Nintendo games, and then Quest for Camelot on the Game Boy. And I'm like, I'm seeing that drop, and like usually I'm like, whatever. But now with this show, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. Give me Quest for Camelot. Do it. Do it. Give it to me. I want to see.
And like, it might not be so bad.
Hey, who knows? I don't know, but I love doing it. I want to keep this going, and I'm glad you both enjoyed yourselves. But before we end this off, we got to make it official and give our final verdicts. So, would you recommend it as an NSO, or tell people to stay away with an NO? Masae, let's start with you.
And yes, so maybe not the whole thing. Maybe yes, maybe toward the middle, but then But yes, in general, yeah, give it a go.
All right. What about you, Rebecca?
Yeah, I agree. I say yes. Just to check out. Yeah, I agree that. I mean, unless you're really into this kind of thing, like all the more power to you if you want to play the whole game. But like, I'm really glad I checked this out. I would say this was pretty cool to do.
Or like you can just like play it once every couple of weeks and slowly progress, and then it stays fresh that way.
Yeah.
We have the screenshot function on the Switch. You can be like, hey, go to this place, screenshot. Okay, I'm done playing for now. And you can look at your screenshots and then get a note on what you were doing.
Nothing else than to like go and do those cool boss battles, because I feel like that was a highlight.
I'd love to see what like the final boss looked like and stuff like that. I'm sure
that's
cool
like
designs.
the main thing that I would really like to continue playing for, is to see what the boss battles are like. Honestly, that's what I would like to see.
That would be really cool. But yeah, I was really split before we talked to you. Actually, talking to you guys sort of shifted my opinion a bit and made me appreciate it a bit more, because I was definitely coming out of this as more of a Dragon Quest fan. I was like feeling a little bummed that I just couldn't turn off my brain and just go with it, because I had to concentrate a little bit more on playing it. But I still appreciated what it did, but I was like, is that enough to really make it a recommendation? But no, I was talking with you guys, seeing what it does well, seeing how it is pretty inviting for its time. Yeah, I'd recommend it. Give it a shot. Again, may not want to beat the whole thing, but I think it is worth a look and just get some more gaming history and see what it's all about. So yes, and yes, take a look. But what about all of you? Have you played Sword of Vermilion before, or was this for your first time if you were playing along with us? Love to hear it in the comments, but before we go, where can everyone find you guys at? Rebecca, let's start with you. Plug your channel, plug yourself.
Yeah, I am pretty much everywhere online at Forest Minish, mostly Twitter and Twitch. I stream games, I podcast, I write for Twinfinite, and I just kind of say funny things about video games on the internet, so come say hi to me.
I'm always entertained, so yes, definitely check out more
Thank
from Rebecca. And Masae, what about you?
Yeah, I'm a nerd on the internet. What can I say? I'm on Twitch and YouTube. I play the video games. I'm playing Pikmin 4 right now, all blind, which is a lot of fun. I do speed runs of Super Mario 64, and I do art. I've been recently doing a whole bunch of like emote commissions for people and icon commissions, which has been a really fun endeavor. So I'm starting to get a little bit more into the art side of things too. So yeah, speedrunner, nerd, artist, the whole shebang.
Cover it all. I love it.
Yeah.
I've had so much fun talking with you both. I really appreciate you both joining me, and I absolutely want to have you both of you back on again sometime in the future.
Please, anytime.
I would
so
100% do this again.
We have still over 200 games to go, because they just keep adding them. I know people complain about the trickle, but they've been maintaining it, seems like, for me. So it's been fun in that way. But of course, all of you lovely viewers enjoyed this episode, let us know in the comments, and please consider supporting us at patreon.com/gvgaming, which includes our live audience tier that allows you to watch this game club live as it's being recorded. Thanks to all of you in the live audience right now. But even just subscribing and hitting that bell helps us a ton. But now it's time for the Wheel of Games to choose next week's title, as I'm joined by my special guest, Some Call Me Johnny, and Gareth Spriggs, aka FTA. Are you both ready to see what game we're playing?
Absolutely, but no.
Wheel of Game Reality, turn. Show us the game that we should play.
Burn.
Burn. There we go.
Yeah, I'll say
There
burn.
you go.
Yeah.
Especially if we get Quest for Camelot. Good lord,
Oh
please
my
no.
gosh. All right. The wheel is live. I'm spinning it now. What game are we going to get as the wheel comes to a conclusion? And we have gotten, oh my God, Quest for Camelot. No, it's not Quest for Camelot. I just gave you a heart attack. No, Gareth, you got your frickin' wish. Kirby's Dream Land 2 for the Game Boy.
Oh.
And there you have it. We'll see you next time as we cover Kirby's Dream Land 2 for the Game Boy. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.